A few months ago, I completed a teardown and repair assessment on Google's Pixel 7a. We found the device is designed so that it can be opened from both sides, allowing access to the screen separate to the remainder of the internals. But it wasn't without its issues. The glue holding the display in place was completely unaffected by heat, making the display hard to remove. After reassembly, the display wasn't working correctly. The brightness was stuck very low and going green depending on what was displayed on screen. Some commenters on that video speculated the heat from opening the display had damaged the screen, but that wasn't the case. This phone was killed by a plastic spudger in just one motion. The recessed display connector is surrounded by tiny capacitors and filters. Under a microscope you can see the damage. We're going to see if you can fix it and how you can avoid making the same mistake as me. Most phones avoid having components placed around connectors like this, or have foam over top preventing this sort of damage. I believe this is actually a poor design choice from Google, being the only device I've ever caused damage to during a teardown or repair video. So let's learn from my mistake. I thought I'd also use this as an opportunity to have a go at doing some board repair, but like the teardown, this didn't go to plan. At first, I couldn't get the solder to melt, so I couldn't reattach the loose components. I'd later discover this was a result of having a hot air nozzle too large. Also during this, I managed to blow away the component, somehow managing to find it after a long search. At the time, I tried adding some more flux and even using a soldering iron. While I'd made no progress, I hadn't made anything worse till that soldering iron came out. I thought I'd add some low melt solder and this would help aid the process. These components are only a fraction of a millimeter in size, and being located so close to the display connector, it should be no surprise it didn't go to plan, and I got more solder on the connector than the components I was trying to attach. At this point, I knew I was out of my depth. I had given it a go, but it was time to call in some help and learn how to do it properly.
Hello Hugh.
Hello Bill.
Welcome to A1 Mobiles and Repairs. Well, I've been in industry for about 25 years or so. So initially we started out with just doing mobile phone sales, as in contracts, and then we moved on to repairs. And then from repairs we went to micro soldering, and then now we're pretty much offering the board level repairs right around Australia.
So if any viewers have board level issues and they want to be able to reach you and send in their device or get a quote, what's the best way to reach you?
We've got a website, so that's got a mail-in submission form. They can submit a mail-in submission form there. But if they want to have a chat with us initially, they can email us or give us a call.
Yeah, no worries. I'll leave a link to all of that information down in the description if anyone wants to find it.
Yeah, appreciate that, Hugh.
All right, no worries. Let's get on with the repair.
Yeah, let's do it. So generally when I'm doing work on motherboards, I do a bit of a visual before I do anything else. At this point, looking at it, is that we've definitely got some capacitors missing there, and then possibly a filter. But I'm also concerned that we've got a bit of solder going on to the actual connector itself. We've got a torn trace here. My guess is that the real issue is just that one filter there that's missing. Caps we can generally get around not having there, especially when we've got several in line with each other. It can pick up the loss of the missing cap. So generally a cap is grounded one side, and the other side will go to either to some kind of a processor, PMIC, some kind of display IC. But because we don't have schematics or board view on these phones, we kind of have to guess where it's going.
So I'm guessing each capacitor has a different value. So if you were to try to resolder them on, would it matter which capacitor went where, or do you think it would work anyway?
Yeah, it can. I mean, generally you need to stick with the values. I mean, there's different voltages that go through capacitors.
I guess that's the importance of having schematics, which we don't have.
Yeah, definitely. So basically when you've got board views, you can actually see whether that you've actually got a capacitor or you've got a filter that sits in there. So that's the type of component that I'm thinking that we're missing on the board. So it generally connects to both ends, and it's like a wire that basically goes through that's like a normal fuse. and because it's not connecting from one side to another, it's not taking it to the connector.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So even without those capacitors, there's a good chance that it still
should
up.
work, yeah. So what I'm going to do now is give this a bit of a clean. I'm going to put a bit of heat to soften that flux up a bit. So I've just got some hot air here. It's not really high. It's not going to damage anything on the board because it's only 200 degrees. So one of my ways of cleaning a board is use this theory where I've got my bottle of ISO, can of air. I've got a compressor down there that I usually use, but we won't use that today because it's very loud. Yeah. Just dab in your alcohol and blow at the same time, and that kind of pushes out all the flux that was on there.
Dude, that works really well.
Now, after we've given that a clean, I can actually see that we've got another issue.
Got a bridged.
Yeah.
Couple of pins.
Yeah. Ideally, if I was actually trying to get a functional device, I'd probably replace that connector, because I'm going to try and touch it up now with a soldering iron. But that could also melt away the connector, so we're just going to have to do that very, very carefully. All right, so another cleanup. There's a lot of cleaning up, unfortunately, in board work. So, and flux tends to have an activation time. So once you start putting heat to it, the flux is getting black, then you can tell that that's actually dead flux after that. Okay. So need to clean it up, put fresh flux on there, otherwise you're just going to have the same issues. I'm just cleaning up this. There's a bit of burnt plastic as well. So now what is available is these Wiley pads. So yeah, probably to a normal camera or normal eye, they just looks like one big copper shield. But once you put it under the scope, you'll see that there's little pads that you can use. The only thing is they're tricky to get out. So I just need to add a bit of flux to that and a bit of solder.
A lot of people, I suppose, watch videos like this and they sort of think that it's pretty easy, pretty straightforward, but it's because you're looking under a microscope, it looks quite large, but when you're looking at with your eye, it's like not even a millimetre, it's smaller than that.
Yeah,
like.
Yeah. The size of these wires are generally 0.01 of a millimetre, so they're very, very fine. Even when I first started out in this industry, there was videos out there that people were showing, what they'd done and how they'd fix certain scenarios. It always looked a lot more easier than when I first started to do the repairs myself. So it can be a bit deceiving, unfortunately. So normally when we put traces in, we also use some conformal coating just to cover it up. That's cured by UV light. I don't know if my green stuff is doing okay at the moment. Probably need some new ones. So I've had it for like 4 years. So just got a UV light. So we're just going to shine that onto it. The conformal coating is just there to stop that trace from moving around. So when I actually put the filter on there, it's not actually going to fly away on me.
Yeah.
So we've just got some filters here that are pretty standard filters on most motherboards. One I'm thinking that's probably going to work is a iPad backlight filter. All right, so I'll just whack this on with some heat. Generally when I'm putting small components on like this, I don't use a soldering iron anymore, unless I need to just top up the ends. Yeah. Which I may need to do on this one.
I see you using 320 degrees, which is, I think, about what I was trying to do it with. But I must say my soldering, or my hot air station tip was about 5 times as large as that one, so that probably also didn't help.
Hot air stations, soldering irons, they generally need to be calibrated. So sometimes when you think you're at 320, you might be at 380. The heat temperature that I use on my hot air station is anywhere between 315, 320, 325, sometimes up to about 335. Just depends on how much thermal mass is on the board. So
Yep.
the more thermal mass you've got on the board, the more it soaks up the heat and it doesn't allow the soldering. And depending on what kind of board you're working on as well, so motherboards on phones tend to need less heat, whereas if you're working on a MacBook or something like that,
Yeah.
you're going to need like heaps more heat on them. So generally you can see the component move like it did before into place, and that's when you know that it's actually sat in to its right position. This one I'm going to try and just get some solder onto that pad. I'm not confident that it's actually grabbing.
So how do you stop them blowing away?
By holding it with the tweezer. So I usually, the way I was just doing it then is hold it sitting on the pads, let it get enough heat to it that it actually grabs. And if you know it's grabbed all right, then you can actually put some more heat on it without the tweezer sitting on it, and you can, that way it'll just flow into place. And that's another issue that a lot of techs seem to have, is getting their iron in the right area. So they're kind of twisting themselves around and moving this way, moving that way, when
you should be moving
moving the board, yeah. So I'm hoping this will just kind of sit into its place now. Well, Hugh, I think that's pretty much all we can do at this point.
Okay.
So,
time for a clean and test.
Clean and test, I reckon. What do you reckon? We got a winner?
I hope so.
I hope so too. All right, so we have a board that supposedly had some micro soldering now done to it and fixed.
Okay, let's try it out.
So I've done my bit. It's all up to you.
Look at that.
Well.
There it is.
So it looks like we had some success.
It couldn't have turned out any better. We've now got our Pixel 7a working again.
Yep.
And it's all thanks to your excellent work.
Thank you.
So thanks for letting us film and for you to show us how you do your micro soldering repairs.
Yep.
If anyone wants to take you up on your services, your website and information will be down in the description.
Thank you.
Mail-in repairs all around Australia for board repair mainly.
Yep.
So
awesome.
be sure to check out Bill.
All right, I appreciate you taking the time to add us on your page as well, and being a part of your successful YouTube page.
Thank you very much.
Yeah,
all right, now it's time to go back home and reassemble the phone completely. Back in the studio, we can begin getting things back together. It's been an amazing opportunity to watch and learn a bit of micro soldering from Bill. I've had no training or qualifications in anything to do with repair. Contrary to what most perceive, I don't own or work for a repair shop. I'm no expert at everything, but I like to have a go and learn new things. Hopefully we can do some more videos with Bill at some point and continue learning together. I've used some liquid adhesive to attach the original display back into the frame, clamping it down for an hour or two before getting the motherboard back into place. Once the motherboard's in place, I can install the upper speaker and the remaining brackets. Before we get the back panel attached, we'll need to remove the old adhesive running around the perimeter. Like the display, the back will be attached with liquid adhesive, as I don't have any pre-cut adhesive to fit the device. I'm not worried about using the exact factory replacement adhesive, as I won't be selling this device, instead giving it to a family member. Once I've applied the adhesive around the perimeter and got the LED flash stuck down into position, the back panel can be reattached and clamped into place for a few hours. After the glue is cured, I can remove the clamps, and we're done. So this is it, a Google Pixel 7a, repaired and working once again. While this is damage that can be avoided, it's also something that other repairers probably wouldn't admit to doing. But these videos aren't about showing you how great I am at repairing, but to show you what it's really like to repair a device, especially if people are following along at home trying to repair their own. If you're working on a Pixel smartphone like this one and want to avoid damaging the device in the same way as I did, disconnect the display's flex cable from the side, where there are no components, not the back or front. And on that note, this has been a Hugh Jeffries video. If you like what you saw, consider subscribing and check out the phone restoration playlist for more videos just like this one. And if you're looking for any used devices, be sure to check out my online store, link for which is down in the description. That's all for this video, and I'll catch you guys next time.